Good morning, everyone. This week we are going to be reading with the lovely Star Spinner Tarot. I'm so excited to do some reading with this week. If this is the first time you're joining us, I do inspired 3-card readings in conjunction with people's allies and powers. And I do 3-card readings 3 times in the videos, and I link the time codes in the description so you can skip to the readings. And if you feel that one of the readings speaks to you directly, awesome. That reading is for you. You can take the wisdom from it, apply it to your life, reject whatever doesn't feel right to you, whatever. And keep in mind that readings can be relevant and meaningful to more than one person. So this is just done in conjunction with what information is being allowed to come to me. So we will start with asking the cards and our powers to work through these readings so that the people most in need of them will receive the information they are ready to hear. Let's begin. We have the King of Cups. Oh. Okay, King of Cups, the 5 of Swords, and the 3 of Coins. We've got a lot of reversals here. And I think this has happened before, where our first reading has been all reversals. So there is some frustrated, stagnant energy. There's some introspection going on, I think. You're thinking about a lot of things. And I mean, who isn't these days? But you're feeling it in particular right now. So you're dealing with a couple different things emotionally here. You're dealing with both an excess of emotion at times, and you're also dealing with struggling to talk about, what am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? And there being times when you don't really know what you're feeling. And so there's times when there's almost too much emotion, and there's other times when you can't really, it's not that there's no emotion, but you don't feel connected with them in a really familiar way, in a way that you find familiar. So you feel kind of disconnected, kind of lost. And that is not a familiar feeling. Normally, I think that you, the person who this reading is meant for, I think you usually have a pretty good grasp on your emotional nature. You know who you are emotionally. You can express yourself well. You don't lose control of your emotions too easily, but you are also a very emotional person. You feel deeply, but you do not feel at the mercy of your emotions. And right now, you kind of do sometimes, but you also don't know really, sometimes you don't really know how to talk about that very easily. The Five of Swords. Okay. So what are you going to do with all those swords? You know, that's often the question posed by the Five of Swords. Reversed, we're often left with just ourselves. Fives are the transition point in the progression of the minor court in the tarot, the minor arcana. And in some cases, especially the Five of Wands, it's a battle between self, the idea, the struggle of trying to get one's ideas to manifest. And the Five of Swords, I actually feel, is very similar. But often the struggle that one comes up against is a struggle against other people very specifically, rather than a fight against one's own ability or lack of ability or skill set or what have you. So what are you gonna do with all those swords? Right now, you know, you have so much ability and you're kind of aware of it. You're like, I know that I can do things. I know that I can act. I know that I can do things. I know that I have skills and talents and experience, and that I can go anywhere and do anything. You know, you know these things about yourself. And you are not feeling capable of doing much with them. And so there might be some question of, well, what was the point? What was the point in collecting all these swords if I can't use them or can't use them right now? And so there's a bit of a personal existential crisis, I think, going on here, and that is indicated by the reversal. Reversals, in this case, I think that we're dealing with a lot of interior things. And a lot of the tools, let's call them tools, a lot of the skills maybe, or resources that you have collected, you know, all the swords that you've drawn into your hand, right now are not quite as useful as you expected them to be. And that's a bit of a problem. And so you're like, but they're there. Why can't I use them? Why aren't they working? And that is very frustrating. And so I think there's a bit of reevaluation also happening right now. So what do we have to look forward to with the Three of Coins, especially in the reversed orientation? Well, the partnerships and alliances that you thought were going to be there are not going to be quite as dependable as you hoped for. You're really going to have to learn to work with yourself right now, I think. And you're going to have to start diving deeply into your own personal reservoir of reliability and accountability. You can't, at this time, you can't look to other people to provide those things for you. Perhaps the people who you thought would be there just are unavailable. Perhaps their personalities turned out to be incompatible with yours. Perhaps their goals have diverged with yours. Whatever the reason, the partnerships, the alliances you thought would be there are not going to be. But this is also an opportunity to go deeply into yourself, to find the resources of self-reliance, of accountability, of responsibility, all of these things that are really essential in becoming self-realized, if you like. They're there within you. You can do this. You can absolutely do this. It's just always kind of sad when the people we thought would be there just kind of aren't. But you can do this. You got this, I think. So that concludes the first reading. Let's begin the shuffle for the second reading. Ace of Swords reversed. The Three of Cups reversed. Oh, and once again, the Five of Swords reversed. All right. You're feeling at a low place right now. The opportunities you thought would be there have not panned out. And I think this has to do especially with education, I want to say. I don't know whether you wanted to go back to school or, start school, or whether you have gone to school and are now feeling like, oh, I've made a horrible mistake. But there is something to do with education. And I mean, I'm just using higher education as a stand-in here. It could be anything. You could be not in higher education. You could be pursuing, technical education or a trade or, self-guided education. Whatever it is, you're feeling like you don't have a handle on it. Like it seemed like a good idea at the time, or that the opportunities you thought would be there are not. And what seemed so promising is just not there. The promise has worn away quite quickly. Yes, I have a friend here. So the Three of Chalices next. You're also dealing with a real loss of, I want to say specifically community, but I think this goes a little broader than just the people that you identify as being part of your community. You're feeling a severing of bonds, of the network, the emotional network that you are part of. You feel cut off, you feel isolated, you feel like that network that you depended on has evaporated, or that it wasn't really there to begin with, or that you couldn't have trusted it anyway. And so you're in kind of a low place emotionally, but especially as emotions relate to your connections with other people. And it's not great. You're feeling emotionally isolated, and that the connections you have tried to make just have not panned out very well. And over here, the Five of Swords, in your future, I think that you are going to be taking on some intellectually rigorous, but also some tasks that require a lot of doing, a lot of management, a lot of scheduling and kind of detail-oriented, having your ducks in a row, so to speak. And you're going to struggle with that. You're going to be reaching for the skills you know you have, like you know how to schedule, you know how to time manage and do the things that are involved with these projects you've taken on, and yet you're still going to struggle, and that is going to be it's going to be a real challenge for you. I think that's going to challenge your sense of self, but also your how to say this. You're going to wonder if you really should have taken on all these things in the first place. And so, yes, this reading sounds a little dire, a little, you know, a little downbeat, I think. But you can also look at it as your powers and allies acknowledging that, yes, this is happening, that these things you are experiencing are actually happening, and that they see it and they see you, and that knowing that you're going to be struggling with some of these things in the future, you can perhaps take steps to shore up yourself mentally and emotionally against it. There might be strategies that you already know work for you when you start to struggle with some of these things, and you can start to implement those. So it is up to you how you choose to take this. I can't tell you how to take this, but I can tell you that there are multiple stances, multiple mental stances that you can approach this information from. And so I hope that you find this useful. Thank you. All right, my battery is running low, so I want to do a quick shuffle. And I swear I'm trying hard to All right, let's begin our third reading. If you are interested in a full reading with me or another 3-card reading with me privately, you can contact me on Facebook, and I will leave the link to my account in the description below. I'd be happy to discuss pretty much any concern with you. Okay. We have the 6 of coins, we have the 4 of coins, and once again, we have the King of chalices reversed. Okay, sorry about that. I wanted to charge my device just a little bit. All right, here we go. So right now, you're really struggling to be as generous as you want, both with yourself and with others around you. I think that naturally you are someone who has a very generous and giving attitude. You enjoy being able to spend a lot of time and even resources caring for the people that are closest in your life and even for the world in general. And right now you really can't, and this is a cause for dissatisfaction in your life right now. And you're not really sure how to resolve this. Over here, instead, what you have done is really kind of close all the shutters, and you have kept your generosity for yourself. But as I mentioned over here, you are also struggling with generosity towards yourself, because there's this tension of I can't do anything with my resources. I have to hold them. I have to keep them. I can't use them frivolously, or I can't use them at all, maybe. Maybe there are resources that are simply not available where you are accustomed to them being. Now, these resources are very easily conceptualized as money. Like if money is not there, we can't be as generous with ourselves, purchasing the things that we know we need to survive and thrive. But also resources can be food, for instance. Like if we are not feeding ourselves correctly, then we are not going to survive and thrive. If we are denying ourselves sleep, if we are denying ourselves adequate time for recovery, because we are conceiving of these things as limited resources that we cannot access, then there is going to be this feeling of constriction and tension and limitation. And there are absolutely circumstances where we can't negotiate with the amount of resources that are allocated for us or for anyone else that we might be able to share those resources with. So you might be experiencing food insecurity, and so there is simply not food available to feed yourself in the way that is best for you. And that is causing, without a doubt, tension. And so I can't speak to the specifics of what resources are causing you distress and tension in your life, but you're negotiating with some really complex issues, I think, right now. And that's not easy. You're in a really complicated position right now. And I don't see an easy way out of it, but I do see that there are emotional implications to this that need to be considered. I think this situation is going deep to a place that you are uncomfortable going. And I hesitate to use the word trigger, but I think that you are recalling some past incidents, and that those incidents are interfering in the current moment in unhelpful ways. There is a sort of emotional intrusion. And I say this in a sense that you are re-feeling the things that you felt in the past. And you are worried that your experiences in the past are going to repeat themselves in the present. That's what I mean by you are re-feeling. You don't want to repeat, and yet you kind of are, through worry, through recollection. Because I don't think that going off of that, this must not be the first time that you have experienced certain constraining circumstances. Whether or not you have been in this exact situation before, you have felt constriction, and that is bringing up a lot of worry that maybe you thought you had resolved, and yet here it comes in a brand new form. Recognizing it for what it is, and recognizing that, yes, this is something that I am experiencing now, but also there is this other layer of things that I have experienced before, things that I have lived through and survived and learned from and integrated. That's also happening. And negotiating these multiple levels of reality is not easy at all. And so recognizing what is actually happening, I think, can be very helpful when we are trying to discover how to navigate a complicated and constricted circumstance. So this reading acknowledges that this is happening and perhaps draws your attention to this other layer of processing that is going on inside you and even around you, perhaps. And I hope that that gives you a certain insight into your process, but also some strength to say that, yes, you've been here before, you have come through it. Yes, there might be some painful memories associated with these experiences, but you came through it. And so there is the chance that you can come through it again because you have the resilience, you have the skills, you have just simply the habit of having survived thus far. So this is another complicated reading. I feel like we've had a few complicated readings with a lot of rather downbeat, kind of sober meanings today. And so I wish everyone the very best in discovering what messages are intended for them, for integrating wisdom that is most appropriate for them at this time. And I do wish you well. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.